Hey everyone, this past week we got a few of our programmatic audience targeting experts in a room together to talk all things geofencing. The difference between geofencing and event targeting, foot traffic attribution, Geo-Lift. There is a lot of information, so make sure to check the description for timestamps if you want to jump to a specific topic. And of course, make sure to like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on alerts so you can always stay up to date on everything going on in the digital space. Enjoy.
I think like a lot of auto dealers like know pretty much exactly who their competition is, so they know the people that they want to go after for sure. And the thing with auto too is a lot of these people are in market, like we know that for a fact. So we know we can catch a user who's going to a competitor like another dealer. We know we can get that user in there in market and they're likely to convert soon. So we can adjust things like recency and stuff like that. I feel like that's pretty big for auto in general.
Yeah, I would agree, and especially just because it's not something where it's just it's only like immediate recency. That car buying is a longer process, so it's not necessarily about only getting the ad right there while they're on the lot. Like they're gonna make a purchase right that second. Like they'll go and take some time and see a bunch of different dealerships and look at different models at different dealerships and everything. So having that kind of time to really serve the ads and then let that brand awareness sink in and eventually drive them to your client's dealership is a really unique advantage from geofencing for us.
You said adjusting recency. Explain that.
So yeah, like we're just talking about like with certain verticals, like, and depending on the goals, you can change the recency of which a user sees an ad. So for like an auto campaign, we talked about like maybe the car buying process. For most people, it's like a month long. So you would have like a 1 month recency where people can see your ads from the moment they walked into a certain fence, and a month beyond that. And then there could be different verticals. Like for one, like water park campaign, we have an interesting strategy where we have 1 day or instant recency actually is on it, so they can only see it while they're at the place we're fencing, and it's enticed them to go while they're at the beach to go to this water park. So you can adjust the recency between anywhere between like instantly they see it only while they're on the lot of that fence, all the way to like within a month after they've actually left what we're fencing.
Would you say it's mostly based on by vertical or?
I would say that probably has the biggest kind of variance for it. We've also seen like we had a restaurant campaign that had a bunch of different restaurant franchises, and so they had some of the major like sports teams in their area. They would do immediate recency geofencing on those sporting events. So like when someone was at a football game or something, they were just getting their ads right there while they were in that close proximity to come and visit their restaurant after the game because they had a bar and specials and seems like a good spot.
So would that be considered event targeting if you're just geofencing for a specific amount of time?
Event targeting and geofencing are different because I hate that the camera's on. Event targeting is like you would gather a pool of users who are at an event during a specific time frame and then retarget them after the event's ended. So it's not necessarily geofencing, it's a variation of it, being that you draw a fence around the location of the event taking place, but you're not really serving these people ads until they've left the event, until it's over, which is like up to about 30 days, depending on how long these people stay in the pool for. Sometimes geofencing and event targeting, actually a lot of times they go together really well, like with John mentioning instant recency, meaning like we could target people with a specific ad set while they're at the event. So one example would be we had a college that had a booth at a, I guess it was kind of like a job fair kind of situation. And they wanted people to know about their nursing programs that they were offering, so we would send people ads, say come to booth whatever the name was and visit us, so only during that time frame. We wouldn't retarget them after the event ended, but we gathered the same pool of users who went to this event and then retargeted them with our event targeting strategy after it had ended. So that's kind of like another way that you can incorporate both of those tactics.
Yeah, and they could definitely be used in conjunction with each other to reach like certain demographics. So like we had the school that I was running for the athletic department, and we could geofence places like if they're interested in sports, we could geofence like a Dick's Sporting Goods or like Sports Authority and stuff like that, sporting goods stores. But then we also have our event targeting strategy, where we're looking at like football games and hockey games and stuff like that. And it also helps find like the demo, right? Because if you split it up, you can see like, oh, for some reason, like the people that are going to the hockey games are more engaged for like this other particular sport they're selling tickets for. So there's like different unique ways we can reach users, just combining both of them.
One of the kind of less common ways to geofence and use that to like the client's advantage that I've seen is using it kind of in more of a demographic sense, where we've had clients with that have seen a lot of success where they're kind of niche or something, where they might not have had like a specific competitor location that they could target, like auto or restaurants, where they have those obvious locations that are easy to target. If you're Buffalo Wild Wings, you want to target the people that are going to Applebee's. And for some other niche industries, we can do things like we had one campaign that went and they were like a high-end fashion boutique or something and sold like really expensive men's suits. So there weren't a lot of other locations like that around to geofence, but what we could do that was really effective was geofencing like private country clubs and yacht clubs and stuff like that in the area that were demographically had like a high income level. So with that, we were able to get the ads in front of the target audience that way, and we were able to see some geo conversions and foot traffic attribution just from targeting that kind of demographic, even though they're not necessarily a competitor.
Right. Yeah, and we have actually we just implemented that for like a new campaign where we have we're geofencing those high end stores because they're trying to sell like super high end real estate properties. So we're trying to reach obviously super affluent consumers. So we have like the country clubs and stuff like that. And one interesting thing we're doing is we have just private jet areas where they'll be taking off. So like obviously only someone who's flying that is going to be like wealthy enough to buy like real estate in like a fancy area. So and we have like the foot traffic attribution where it's like obviously if they go to that conversion zone that's like in a state that's completely far away from where we're fencing, like it's very obvious that they're there to take a tour and they're interested in actually purchasing property. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's a huge indicator that what you're doing is you're targeting the right audience that way, even though it's kind of a little outside the box.
Right.
Like the more the client can provide us as far as information about the neighborhoods that are around and any competitors that they line up with, I think the more targeted we can get with the campaign. And a lot of the times the competitors, they have to think about what type of competitors they are, because a lot of times customers necessarily won't pick up and leave to go to a new dentist or things like that. So it's important to keep in mind the type of campaign and the industry it is and whether or not these types of customers will actually be committed to kind of veer away from their current business that they've been going to for years or anything like that. So I think it's important to keep in mind when they are providing us with those types of geofences as well.
Yeah. Like if it's like a lawyer or something like that, like that's something that we know they're probably like in person taking consultations and stuff like that. So we could probably be targeting their competitors like pretty easily, and then having them come over, enticing them to maybe join our client. But like for some verticals like dentists, like you mentioned, like it's just like it's not really a competitive advantage. Somewhere you would go like in and then see an ad like, oh, I'm going to go to this dentist instead.
Yeah.
There's
unless it was like a huge promo where it's like
right.
major difference in price, then they might sway.
Yeah, people aren't usually as likely to jump ship on something like that, or like their doctor or something like. But that's something where demographic kind of geofencing might come in more handy. Just targeting, whatever, like not malls, but I can't think of any examples. Just helpful.
You would have nailed it though.
The more you know.
I thought you had it all
Spot.
I did. I had it in my head, and then I was like, and next step, think of.
But
thinking.
like sometimes it's like plumbing or HVAC kind of companies that necessarily when something if your pipe breaks, you're not going to be like, oh, gotta go drive down to the plumber and like go to an in person and ask if they have 24/7 service. It would be a situation where maybe we would geofence a Lowe's or a specific department where people are probably panicking and running to go get something to help fix their current situation.
AKA me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had a flower farm that we basically just targeted the garden centers of Lowe's, because those type of people are obviously gonna veer away if there's like a better price that they know it's at a downtown nursery or plant nursery or something like that, rather
Or
than
local businesses.
overpaying for the fern at Lowe's. So.
For very specific.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool that now with the granularity of geofencing, you can get like so hyper targeted that
Yeah.
you could go to Lowe's or Home Depot and geofence the specific sections within the store, whether it's the garden center
Yeah.
or the hardware section or whatever.
Yeah, we can even see sometimes in malls, where the stores are located.
Let's talk about Geo-Lift.
Ooh.
No.
John does.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
okay. All right, jumping the gun, but
Someone
I
afford
like
it?
it.
Are we? So when we talk about like geofencing with how we can gather users that enter like that fence that we've drawn within the platform. So we'll gather a user pool of people that went into those geofences, right? And for one reason or another, we can serve ads to some of them, and some of them won't receive an ad. But either way, we have that data. So with Geo-Lift, what we're able to do is we measure the rate at which the people who saw an ad and then converted to the conversion zone that we have set up versus the people that didn't see an ad and then converted to the geo-conversion. So I think our metrics they're 3 times more likely around to convert to our client's conversion zone if they have been served an ad from us, as opposed to if they've just walked into a random geofence and they weren't served an ad.
Yeah, and that's been really helpful for mitigating some of the clients' concerns and everything, because obviously when we first rolled out geo-conversions and geofencing, it was great and it was awesome, and that we could show this kind of extra kind of bottom-of-the-funnel type of data that programmatic advertising isn't usually known for. But then once clients got a little more savvy, they would start asking, like, oh, well, how did I know these people weren't going to come to my location anyway? Or how do I know you're not just targeting my employees that are coming to our location? So then now that we have Lift and we can measure specifically exactly how much more likely they are to convert after seeing our ad versus the same set of people in the same geofences that didn't see the ad, we have like undisputable. So close.
It's both beautiful and indisputable.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. It's indisputable evidence that our ads are having a positive impact in driving these customers to the client's location, which is what they really want to see, that what they're paying for is having a positive impact and they're getting actual value out of it.
Yeah. I think seeing like the number 35 is like a great number as far as like conversions, but then you compare it, see the Geo-Lift is like 400 and something percent. It's actually comparing it, like you said, to people who haven't seen the ad, and they can actually compare it to something versus just seeing a number on the paper.
Yeah, exactly. Provides like additional context to it to help really explain what that number actually means. Because otherwise, how do you know if 35 geo-conversions is good for your campaign or if 200 geo-conversions is good? It just kind of helps to further explain that a little.
And to that end, like when you talked about like employees, especially if we're running a recruitment campaign, like the new Lift metric that we have is also super important, because we can, so if we're running some sort of recruitment campaign and you can geofence, like if you want like a qualified applicant, like maybe someplace that they already work, maybe there's people that are working 2 shifts. If we have that new Lift metric, it's able to filter out those people within 30 days that have been going to both places. So you can almost say, like without a doubt, that if they went to that fence and then they came to you, and it's like that new Lift metric, that it's filtering out those employees, right? So it's almost guaranteed that they're there for some type of interview or something. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty cool that we can get that granular now and can see that kind of data, which, I mean, before we couldn't get anywhere near that, so it's cool that it's evolved that much and still evolving even further into crazier and crazier stuff that we'll get to in the next edition.
Wow.
I don't know if we will.
Any
That might have been a lie.
geofencing predictions? Any like things on the horizon that?
I think it'd be awesome. I think in the future we will see foot traffic attribution for other tactics that aren't just geofencing. Like since we have cross-device matching, right? I mean, if you get served an ad on your phone, or if we have that ID, and then you can match it back to their computer, I don't think it's just geofencing that will be able to say this person ended up at your location. I think they'll be able to type in a keyword on the computer, be able to serve them an ad, and then we'll have that foot traffic attribution metric right there.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that'll be super cool once we can do it for really any kinds of targeting that we can do, and I'm sure someone somewhere is working on that kind of technology to take advantage of it, because it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, we just talked about like dentists before, right? Like how maybe it's not super effective to like geofence other places but like you're probably typing in like family dentist or something like that, right? And if you're that client, you're gonna want to know if like for sure they're coming into your location as a result of like our marketing campaign. So like keywords are gonna be like just as effective in the future at like actually having foot traffic attribution and not just like the fencing strategy itself.
Yeah, that'll be huge to help some of those other tactics that right now, some of them really the only way to like quantify how well they're performing is just through clicks, and there's not a whole lot of additional data, especially if the client doesn't place their pixel. Client should always place their pixel.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, gotta be. It's hands down the best option for if you're trying to target specific physical locations,
Right.
And not just kind of a wider radius. One thing that's cool that's coming up is, I don't even know if you guys, I don't think you were on the call. I think I briefly might have mentioned this to you guys, but the curated list addressable geofencing, which is going to be rolling out soon for us. And to backtrack a little bit on addressable geofencing in general, since it's slightly different than our usual geofencing. So what that does is it basically goes and it targets a specific list of addresses, and through our platform they have access to like 90% of the plat line data in the country. So they're able to go and match up a list of physical addresses up to, I think, 1 million addresses, and they can then match that to actually draw a fence around the actual plat line of each house, or each building that they want to target. So it's a really cool way to kind of do that in mass, and can be very effective for larger brands and companies with really big CRM data files. For anyone that wants to target like thousands of addresses, like colleges would be huge for, you can go and target anyone that's applied and specifically geofence their address, and then be able to track geoconversions back to their location. So you could see if you were maybe had an upcoming tour or something, you could go and set up addressable geofencing for your prospective student list, and then track and see how many people actually went and converted to your upcoming tour or something like that, which is cool. And especially for something like that where it could be a really large radius, where geofencing might be kind of tough to find specific locations within like a 3-state area or something, but in this it makes it kind of a lot more effective.
It also pairs well with like traditional advertising too, which I thought was kind of cool. So if somebody's just still sending out mail, flyers, physical things in people's mailboxes, maybe it's like, I think one of the examples was a dealership. If you have an oil change that's, or you're getting to the point where you need an oil change and they have that in their database, you can geofence this person's home address because of the CRM data, and maybe they already got like a coupon in the mail for like $10 off their next service, which is kind of cool for brand awareness. And
yeah, I feel like it's a no-brainer. Like if you're already doing direct mail or some other kind of household level advertising like that, like the diner placemat advertising or something, I feel like why would you not do addressable geofencing, where you can still target specific addresses and everything, but also be able to track and see how many people actually then went and visited your location, where that's not as readily accessible data with some of those other tactics.